Howdy, I'm Grey Pilgrim. Well, we weathered through Halloween and it's now November. And by November 1st, I finally got a paycheck and could pay off a whole bunch of bills, including my property taxes. And that almost ruined me. Came damn close. I had exactly $8 left in my checking account. I don't like to cut it that close. But at least I was solvent. Broke, but solvent. Anyway, I, as you may know, collect guns. Mostly military surplus. Former military guns that have been surplused by different countries and sold in the U.S. market. And they're just an interesting aspect of collectibles. I'm a collector by nature. I've always been a collector. I remember when I was a kid. Well, first of all, I'm old enough that I remember before internet, long before internet. And when you were a kid, what you did is you watched TV and you read books. And those were your two real entertainments. Or you could listen to radio or TV, well, radio, because they even had a few radio shows back in the 50s. But on TV, the one thing that I absolutely adored was all of the Westerns. I was the typical little cowboy kid with cap guns on a tooled belt and a cowboy hat and a floral sort of looking cowboy shirt. And I would put that on and go watch Roy Rogers or the various shows that used to be on. In the 1950s and 60s, the Westerns were king. I remember in the 60s, shows like, Bonanza, The Big Valley, The Rifleman, Maverick, Gunsmoke. There were so many of them. And speaking of Gunsmoke, actually, speaking of The Rifleman, so I love Maverick, by the way. Maverick used to poke fun at the other Westerns, and they did such a great job of it. The beginning of Gunsmoke showed a scene taken through the legs of Matt Dillon as he's walking down the street to have a confrontation with the bad guy way out there. And he'd go bang, bang, they'd both go bang, bang, and you'd see the bad guy fall. Then it'd pan up and say Gunsmoke. Well, there was a scene in a Maverick in which Maverick is standing out on the street and the sheriff is standing there, and it's the exact same scene. Only Maverick is way the hell and gone way away. And the sheriff goes, bang, bang. And then Maverick yells, should I get a little closer, Sheriff? Gunsmoke changed their opening credit roll after that. But if you saw Gunsmoke, you really understood Maverick and you thought it was hilarious, which I did. But the one I really enjoyed was The Rifleman. Lucas McCain, and his instead of using a 6-gun, he used a rifle. And because of that, I always wanted a lever gun. So I have very few civilian firearms. Very, very few. Revolvers, yes, but not rifles. But I have one. And I'm going to show you that one. Here. Come over here. Come over here. Okay. Check this out. See that? This is an early inner arms import, and it's called a what is it called? A inner arms. Oh gosh, I can barely read this. The stamping is very, very faint. This is an old gun. Well, it's about as old as I am, and that's pretty old. Okay, I'll do it this way then. Model 65 SRC. It's called a 65 SRC, but it's got the inner arms import mark on it. But what's interesting is it does not have a country of origin mark on it. But I know what it is. This is a Rossi Model 92 from Brazil. But before it was called the Model 92. Here it's just called the SRC. It was that was an internal Rossi model designator, and they just stamped it on here because Inner Arms needed a model of some kind to be able to import it. But this is a lever action, very much like the Winchester Model 1892. Only that one was in 4440. This one's in 44 Magnum. Unfortunately, the one thing it does not have, that Rossi actually came up with later, is a saddle ring. The saddle ring is what Lucas McCain and John Wayne used to use for that rolling cock. I wish I had one, because there's like a YouTuber now named AR American who just had taught himself how to do that, and it was long and painful, but he does it, and he does it well. And I really wanted, I saw that, I thought, I wish I could do that. Well, I bought this from a friend, sort of. I always wanted one of these, and he happened to have this one. Well, he had this love for a Model 1911 I have, and he came over and picked it up and looked at it, and looked at it, and looked at it, and finally he said, deal. So he just did a straight swap. And it's a beautiful old firearm, and it's in great shape. And the wood is in beautiful shape. The bluing is in great shape. Everything is in good shape on it. It's not a traditional Winchester. There are internal differences, but this is my one and only civilian firearm per se. It is not a military surplus or a military built gun of any kind. But I love it. I just think it's just a cool thing. It's just something that, well, it reminds me of being a kid, you know? And it shoots really well. My cousin has one that's like a twin of it. Well, my cousin, by the way, see the suspenders I'm wearing? He made those. You may have read all those fairy tales of the cobbler elves who make shoes for the cobbler in town. Well, my cousin is sort of like that. He's a really excellent leather worker, and he created these things, and they're just, the design on them is far better than any of the other commercial suspenders I've ever seen. I've gotten to the age where I outgrew my butt. I used to just have to hitch my pants belt up as tight as I could, and I could keep my pants up, but it's got to the point where the only thing I can do, I got some stuff under there I got to clean up. The only thing I can do these days is put suspenders on to hold the pants up, because I have other things on my belt. Leatherman on this side, and well, I carry a pistol on the other one. And it's, you know, you get used to having a pistol there. And I feel naked without the pistol, but I'd feel even more naked if my plumber's crack got to be a full-on gluteus maximus shining in the wind. But anyway, thank you to my cousin. You're just wonderful. I just put this sweater on because it's turning November cold now. It's just no fair. Is that pointing at me? I can't tell. Oh boy. Anyway, I just thought you'd like to see that I do have a past, and my past, though it's not that notorious, it was just the typical kid of the 1950s, like this, on his hands and knees in front of the television set, watching all the riders going by, and bang bang at everything and all that, and watch all the Indians fall, and you know, real Americana. It was just. It was a way of life, and we grew up pretty well. I was thinking about that, talking to my son the other day, and thinking, he did not know from school the multiplication tables, and it shocked me. They just taught him, well, this is how you use a calculator. I said, no. If it's a small enough number, you memorize the 5 times 5, 5 times 4, 5 times 3. 6 times 2, 6 times 8, and you know it off the top of your head. And you use that for your calculator. You use that, just memorize the multiplication table. And he said, what's that? So I said, okay, you are going to memorize it. And I hammered it into his head. And he learned it. He didn't even know how to read an analog clock when he was a kid because nobody taught him. And it shocked me. It shocked me. I mean, everybody, oh, everything's digital now. Oh, screw that. Learn how to do it the old way. Learn how learn how to use an abacus. Do you know how to use an abacus? I do. You know that somebody with an abacus can actually multiply faster than a calculator? Can be done. I'm not that good at it, but I've known of people who can do that. And there's other things like that. I mean, humans have developed all kinds of systems over the centuries to do a lot of things. We happen to have this frontal cortex, and we can use it for stuff. And we should use it for stuff, in my opinion. And we don't. We just use it to go and watch TikTok videos. Sad. Anyway, Rossi Model 92, only it's not called a Rossi, and it doesn't have a saddle ring on it. Oh well, but it does have that little leather thing to protect your hand when you're cocking it. And that's kind of cool. And, it's a lever action. You got to have a lever action. I do have a single action army that I can put up next to it and carry too. Unfortunately, it's in 3220. That was the smallest cartridge that they actually made the real single action army in. But, I think, what's his name up there? The guy who learned how to poos the Elmer Keith, that's his name, Six Guns. He learned how to boost the 44 to make it a 44 Magnum. He invented the 41 Magnum. He used to push the loads on cartridges as far as a single action army could take it, and he was really good at it. he hunted, and he shot down a deer at 600 yards with a 6-gun. Elmer Keith was one of a kind, absolutely one of a kind. But anyway, he said when he was a kid, he had a 3220. That was what they got him, and he liked it, but he kept reloading it a little too hot. Well, I wish I had a 45 long Colt, but you know how much those cost? That 3220 cost me a fortune, and I got it cheap. Anyway, me and my rants. Happy trails.